everyone, and welcome to the April webinar, Balancing Nutrition and Academics. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this webinar. We know it's a busy time for you and your students now that finals are coming up. So it's a good time to have a reminder of what all UCA has to offer. So yeah, I'm going to pass it over to Ethan Baldridge, our UCA campus dining dietitian.
Well, hello everyone. Thanks again, like she said, for listening, watching. So right now what I'm going to do as I look intently what you see at the screen, I'm going to share one of my screens with you. It looks like it's the correct one. Does that look good, Emily? Okay. So yeah, like she said, my name's Ethan. I'm a dietitian. Been working at UCA for about 5 or 6 years now. I'll just tell you a little bit of my background so you can kind of get an idea of what I've done or what I'm doing now. Went to school here. I got my master's degree here at UCA. Went through their dietetic internship. Really enjoyed it. Started working in healthcare, specifically acute care healthcare, right out of school, and uh, worked at a few jobs in the hospital, basically clinical nutrition manager, lead dietitian, and I wanted to move back here to Central Arkansas. And when this position became available, I applied here, and I've been loving it ever since. And I'll tell you a little bit about what I do as we get into this presentation. So overall, kind of 10,000 foot view of this UCA dining services. So as we go through this, this isn't all of our team, but I'm going to introduce you to a few just by pictures. I'll tell you their names, excuse me, and also their information, email, that kind of stuff is available on the website, and I'll give you the name of the website as well. So Joshua Gorham, General Manager, Katie Jones, Residential Food Service Director, Sean Applewhite, our Executive Chef, Nico Benedicto is Food Service Manager, and Cami Ryan, Retail Food Director. So not that you need to know all of them, but I think it's good to somewhat be able to put a face with the name and know if you do reach out to them, kind of what to expect as far as what their role is. I feel like in the position that I'm in, I have people reach out to me about anything and everything, which is fine because typically I can direct them, to the person that would be most helpful to them if it's not me. Um, but there you go. And there I am. I did not select this photo, but it's a good segue. So, it is very unique being, as a student at UCA, it's unique to have a dietitian, a full-time dietitian that can help you with different things. So I'm gonna move something around real quick so that I can see. So, like I said, being a dietitian here, it's been really fun and enjoyable for me. Just being able to help students in similar situations or just in the same setting that I was in, as a student. So I have a few things listed here, everything from just one-on-one counseling, different types of nutrition guidance. I've had students come in who are graduate students, never had an allergy their entire life, and then just recently being diagnosed with one. They had no idea how to navigate it, what to do, what to avoid, what to look for, and ingredients list, that kind of stuff. So I can do that sort of stuff if it's diabetes management, weight loss or gain, or I just have a lot of students that come in, they're in a new setting and they have no idea how to eat healthy in this setting. Maybe they mastered it when they were at home or in high school, but this is it's a totally new setting, new environment, different food around them. So sometimes it can be a challenge to get things kind of set up in a way that's most beneficial to them. And so I tell every student that I talk to, it doesn't matter if you're a freshman, if you transferred to three different universities, or if you're a graduate student, the first 2 weeks of being on campus, I encourage everyone to develop a healthy habit, a healthy routine, kind of for their day. sometimes when I get students and I'll kind of bring back into what this is presentation is really about, kind of some of those stressful times and those times where things can just seem to get kind of out of control or out of hand as a student. Um, when I have those students come to me and talk to me, typically the first thing I'll ask them, and this could be, halfway through the semester or at spring break, and they come and they sit down and I say, well, tell me about your routine. And almost always they say, I don't have a routine. I don't have other than my class schedule, I don't have a set schedule. And that can be really detrimental to their academic success, their health, their well-being in general. Because if you don't know what's coming next, things can be extremely stressful for you. You don't know, for instance, after this class, whether you're going to go study or you're going to go eat lunch. So just some of those simple things, getting that routine down within those first 2 weeks of classes, or what I say is those first 2 weeks that you're on campus, try to establish a healthy routine, because that can really set up the success of your semester. So, but I've had students come to me, like I said, 8 weeks, 9 weeks into the semester, not have a routine, and I've helped them set one up. So, it can be done at any time, but preferably those first 2 weeks. So, as far as our retail locations go, and if you can't see this, Emily, am I still good? Thumbs up here. Okay. As far as the retail locations go, there are a few different ones within the food court. You can kind of be thinking about more of your fast food style options, whether it's Chick-fil-A, Booyah's, Pizza Hut. We also, the picture that you see there is the provisions on demand. Some people call it the pod. They don't have, necessarily cooked meals there like you would see at Chick-fil-A, but they've got some, I just kind of call it like in my own terms, not that they're official, but like a mini convenience store, what you might see in a convenience store. So they have like toiletries and that kind of stuff too. It's not just, potato chips or whatnot. And I always encourage them also too to have fresh fruit available. So if they don't, you let me know and we'll make that happen. Um, but outside of the student center, there are a couple other options, for like coffee and that kind of stuff. So 1907, Think Coffee, Starbucks, they all have coffee. And then Twisted Taco is another dining option. It's what I always say it's across the road, but I believe is that Donaghy? It's across Donaghy, right? Yeah. So as far as the Christian cafeteria, it's our residential dining facility. It's unique in and it's unique and different than the other locations in the sense that the the menu changes quite regularly every day. So what sometimes when I talk about this, I tell students, it's if you wanted to go somewhere and probably try something different every single day, that's where you would probably want to go. If you wanted to get a Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, though, you can go there every single day of the week at, those certain meal times, and you can get exactly that. Whereas in the cafeteria, they might not be serving chicken sandwiches that day. So there's variety and there's options within that. But it's definitely, when you talk about comfort food and that kind of stuff, that's typically, some of our go-to lines, say line stations that we have available there. That's where you can go and you can get the meatloaf and that kind of stuff as well. So, okay, and we move something on my screen real quick. As far as dietary accommodations go, we do our best. It's just as a university, as a dining provider, the food options that we have here are different and unique on this university. They're not going to be the same as a university that's maybe an hour or 2 hours away. So some of the options that we have as far as allergen friendly are limited. compared to, another university, let's say like Harding, where they might have a specific station. But we have variety and uniqueness with what we can serve as well. So we don't have a specific like so let's say a specific station that reduces or eliminates all allergies, and no university does. That's not a thing because people can be allergic to peanuts, but people can also be allergic to strawberries or tomatoes. So what we typically look at with this is our top nine allergens. And I won't get, I could get super nerdy on this. I won't bore y'all too much, but among those top nine allergens, those are the ones that we look at more specifically: peanuts, tree nuts, egg, that kind of stuff. So we serve all those things at most of our locations, but we're very diligent about how we prepare it, when we prepare it, cross contact, that kind of stuff. I do quite a bit of education with the staff here. Very knowledgeable. Even our senior, our management, they take this kind of stuff seriously. So it's good to know, for someone like me that really, this is probably stresses me out more than anybody, but it's good for that parent that sends their child here and has a food allergy or has multiple food allergies. They know that they can come to someone like me and get valuable and useful information. So as far as the allergen friendly options, we have the stress less zone. It's more like prepackaged type foods. It's not going to be like a home cooked country dinner that you can get at that station, but it is useful for what it's intended for, kind of somewhat of like a grab and go station. We do have some gluten-free options with the pizza crust and the deli bread, and we're trying to expand on some of those, but it can be challenging too at times. And then for vegan and vegetarian, we do have a specific station for that. Um, but like I tell students sometimes, if you don't have a, excuse me, if you don't have a specific allergy or a specific intolerance to food, you could eat vegan or vegetarian at almost any options if that's something that you want to do. You just have to be very mindful about what it is that you're choosing, and ask to, like how it was cooked or what it was prepared with. So, campus dining events, I'm not an expert in all of this, but I'll certainly do my best to cover what I can. There are more events that happen than just what's listed here. Lunch on the lawn, this is more during like the welcome week, I believe. And then food truck festival, that's usually pretty popular, especially among those people who enjoy eating, food from food trucks and they like that type of variety. I won't go through all of these, but some of these events are really, they're not always necessarily focused on food specifically, but also to that interaction that you can get from going to a food truck with a friend or eating lunch outside with someone you just met, or a classmate that you had last semester that you hadn't seen all summer or whatever it is. So, as far as being able to reduce stress and be more engaged and more interactive around events on campus, that kind of stuff, that's really what these are great for. So certainly something that I would say if I was a student here, I would be looking forward to these, and I would have these set on my calendar for that time. All right, I mentioned the website in the beginning. So there is a QR code on the screen, but I'm going to go ahead and read out the website just for anyone who can't see the screen. So it's centralarkansas.mydininghub.com. And that's where you can go. Students can go, parents, anyone who wants to can go on there, and you can see the weekly menus, the daily menus for each specific location. I talk about the website a whole lot when it comes to students with food allergies or intolerances, or they're just trying to avoid or stay away from certain types of food, or maybe it's certain ingredients. because this is where all the nutritional info, the ingredient information is at. So think about if you were to walk into the grocery store, pick up a package of noodles or rice or anything. You were to pick that up, flip it around, look at the back, and you see the ingredient list. That this website is where you'll see that information. So you won't walk into the cafeteria or Chick-fil-A, the student center, and be able to see all that. You go to the website, and that's how you see the ingredient information. You see what foods or what ingredients kind of went into preparing that dish if it's something, if it's a mixed dish of some kind. But we do have the different icons and that kind of stuff that are available on our menu boards. So, um, this again. As far as student feedback goes, that's probably one of the things I enjoy the most about what I do. Being able to listen to students, make changes kind of on the fly or like as we need to. Whether that's me receiving feedback from a student and then passing it to the person that can really, make the change that's needed to, or that's me, receiving that feedback and then making that change myself, whatever it might be. I love student feedback. I think that's where, I've even excelled as a professional is getting better. I work with graduate students from different dietetic internships. So as a preceptor, I have that opportunity to learn from them. I always ask them, they probably wondering like, why do you ask me so many questions? It's because I want to learn. Like I want to know what is new within the world of dietetics or nutrition. I want to know what's new about the program. I was here many years ago, but the program's changed multiple times since I've been here. So I'm curious to know, what are they doing? And they're for the most part, it's all positive changes, right? You want to know and you want to be helpful to that program. You want it to be successful. So I learn a lot from the students. Again, with that feedback can be given to me, it can be given to the directors of the locations or general manager. Hopefully anyone that you reach out to, if you want to give feedback, hopefully anyone will be receptive to it and they'll do what they need to with that information and it'll go to good use. That's the goal anyways, but there are ways, for instance, on the screen that they talk about the dining style survey that's conducted every year in the fall. But there are other ways. There are certain QR codes you can scan to provide specific feedback, maybe at a meal, if you really enjoyed it or you really did not enjoy it. There are ways to give that feedback instantly at that time in the moment. So I always encourage feedback, whatever it might be. Moving on to campus partnerships. There are more than what's listed here, but these are just a few. So whether it's the Bare Essentials Food Pantry we partner with, we provide them with food every week. Every week they come over and they pick up, it might be fresh produce or bread, whatever it is, so that they can have that available to those students, faculty, and staff. It's available to everyone. So I always encourage people to take advantage of it if or when they can. The ORS office, I work with them a lot when it comes to students with disabilities, specifically with like food allergies. So if you have a food allergy, typically we work closely with the ORS office to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to make it less stressful for that student, make it more realistic. We don't want, sometimes I have I speak with parents and students alike. Sometimes they'll sit down in front of me both together, and I think that's great. But sometimes I think, the parent's expectation is, hey, I want to send my child there out, and I want it to be exactly like the way it is at home. And the student may not want that at all. The student might want that freedom to be able to say, no, I want to make the decision myself. I want to look at the website, the ingredient list, whatever it is. I want to be able to make that decision on my own. I'm 18 years old, I'm 19 years old, whatever it is. I want to do that. I want to go out on my own. So sometimes it can be difficult to allow them to do that. But, it's what's best for them. They need to learn how to do that. And I'm here for them. I can help guide them, instruct them. And, hopefully the end goal is that they don't have an allergic reaction of any kind. But hopefully we give them the resources that they need, the information, the education that they need so that they can make those informed decisions on themselves, for themselves and be safe in doing that. We also work with residential life. I don't do a whole lot with that, but I know like our general manager and some other um, leadership staff members, they go to that, and that's where they can get a whole lot of feedback all at once. So again, with the student health clinic, students with diabetes or struggling with certain medical conditions, I provide medical nutrition therapy. And I don't know if I mentioned this or not in the beginning, but I'm registered and licensed to practice in the state of Arkansas. So I follow HIPAA guidelines and all that stuff. So, there's no need to worry about any of that. Also, work with the athletic departments, the nutrition department, all that fun stuff. Supporting student focus. Um, I did mention this at the beginning. I always encourage students those first 2 weeks of being on campus, set up a healthy habit or routine. I don't think that can be understated. To me, working with students over the past, 5 or 6 years, I've actually found that to be the most valuable thing. And again, I'm looking at this just from my perspective. As a dietitian, I might meet with a student with a food allergy, and the next, hour I'm meeting someone with an eating disorder, and the next hour I'm meeting with someone who is struggling with a new food allergy, whatever it might be. So I found that that has been the most helpful thing to the students that I work with. And I think a lot of other professionals on campus that work with students would agree with that. Being able to establish that routine early and make minor changes, obviously, as the semester goes on, that's probably the most beneficial when it comes to, you know, wellness, staying healthy, your mental status, all that kind of stuff. Because stress compounds. And it can compound quite quickly, if you're not doing things to maintain that stress. Maybe it's a combination of I'm not eating healthy, I'm not sleeping right, um, I'm not doing well in my classes, I'm not studying, all these things start to compound and the stress starts to build. And that's where it gets extremely overwhelming and just unbearable. So being able to set up that healthy routine early on to me is the most important thing. Um, so getting connected, you see it. So on Instagram, and I'm not on social media. Our marketing manager, she does all this fun stuff. But so if you reach out to it, you're not speaking to me, just to let you know. Some people are like, hey, I connected with you on social media. I'm like, no, you didn't. But I appreciate that. So if you want to connect with me, my email. And it's on the website too. I should have included it here, but I didn't. So I'll just tell you it's Baldridge, Baldridge dash, not underscore, but a dash, Ethan, Ethan, at aramark.com. So that's how you can connect with me directly. And if you need my work cell phone number, I can give that to you, all that good stuff later on. But as far as connecting on social media, Instagram is at UCA Dining. And then the website I mentioned earlier, but I'll say it again. It's centralarkansas.mydininghub.com. So you can sign up for other things on that website. But those social media accounts, that's really a way that a lot of students stay connected nowadays with different organizations and events that are going on. So it can be extremely valuable. Sometimes it can be valuable to the parents too, because they're like, hey, you're saying you're stressed out. So and so's having an event today. Why don't you go check it out? Go spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes there, and see what they have to offer. So it can be beneficial. Okay, so that is the end of my slide. Do we want to take any questions if there are any, or is there anything else that you wanted me to cover specifically, Emily?
I have a question. So with finals coming up, I feel like this is when students tend to think like, oh, there's no time for eating. It's just whenever I can get a bite in. We see students in our office who are like, well, I didn't have time to eat today. What's the best advice that you have during for those students during busy times like this?
Yeah, this is a really great question. I get it frequently too. I was actually working with a young lady last semester, and this was a huge struggle for her is finding time to eat. And I understand that. Usually it goes back to, did I have a healthy routine established in the beginning that I've kind of gotten out of that routine as life went on and stress or work or, classes shifted. Or did I just never establish one in the first place? So, first I would answer that question. And if I just need to get back into that routine, I'll do that. If I need to establish a new one, I'll do that. However, if we're like, I haven't done any of that, I'm not going to be able to do that because we're right here in the moment. I don't have 2 weeks type situation. My number one recommendation is you always have a healthy snack with you. So whether it's a snack you put in your backpack, your pocket, your purse, like whatever it is, you have to always have a healthy snack with you and one that's convenient for you. And I'll give you some examples. So for instance, you don't want to have to walk around with a frozen burrito in your backpack and look for a microwave when it's time, right? So things that are convenient for you that are shelf stable, whether that's things like tree nuts, so walnuts, pecans, pistachios, almonds, could be an apple, a banana, an orange. So think about those healthy foods that can be available to you and quick and convenient for you. You don't have to refrigerate them, you don't have to microwave them. So that's my number one. Always have a healthy snack with you at all times. Number two is, and it depends on kind of your own personality. So I'm starting to get a little more specific here, but are you the type that needs a reminder on your phone to study and not go over a certain amount of time to study? Or you need a timer on your phone to make sure that you stop and take a break and drink water or eat that healthy snack. So if you are, put a timer on your phone. Make sure that you're doing that. And that kind of coincides with setting up a healthy SMART goal. So for those of you who haven't or are not aware of this, SMART goal: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound. I use these all the time when I work with students. Um, I find these are the most helpful for the people that I work with, and it really gives them set structure when there is no set structure. We put it in place. So, for instance, if student says, "Hey, I'm stressed out, I'm trying to study, I'm not finding time to eat," then we're going to say, "Okay, let's say I'll use right now as an example. It's 12:30. I'm going to say between 12:30 and 1:30, and I'm saying I'm the student here. I'm going to get up from wherever I am. I'm going to go find some healthy food. Again, preferably it's sitting right next to me in my bag, but if it's not, I'm going to find that within the hour and I'm going to eat that food." And someone could say their immediate response is, "Well, I can't. I've got class from 12:30 to 1:30." Okay. 1:30 to 2:30. So we have to start right now in the moment. We don't want to set goals that start 3 days from now or a week from now. We want to set a goal that starts right here, right now, preferably within a few hours. It could be the next day, depending on what time of day we're thinking about this, but that's the goal is to do something that's going to be immediate and effective right then and there. But to take it further, you would say, okay, every day, Monday through Friday, from 12:30 to 1:30, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to eat, a healthy meal at that time. But it could be I'm going to drink 20 ounces of water during that time. It could be I'm going to walk around the building 3 times, at that time. So depending on what it is specifically that really helps you as an individual, we're talking about food and not eating, so that's why I mentioned that. But you could set up the SMART goal to be anything. And I know this doesn't just work with college students, like this works with everybody. When I was in the hospital, when I was doing outpatient counseling with not, non-college students, people that had already graduated that were working in the profession, this works just as well with them. So I think that would be my short-term and long-term advice for that is we just have to take a step to do it right now. And then slowly, gradually, that'll work into a healthy habit or a healthy routine of ours.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Does
thank
anybody
you.
else have any questions? No. Okay, well, thank you so much, Ethan, and thank you
Thank
to
you.
everyone who is listening. I really appreciate you coming. I know we all do with this busy time coming up. Yeah, thank you. Bye, everybody.